Hey, Chicago, what do you say? It's the CHGO Cubs podcast presented by DraftKings, America's top-rated sportsbook. Download the app. Use the promo code CHGO when you sign up. Welcome to the pregame show. Luke Stuckmeyer, Ryan Herrera, Cody Delmendo. Cubs getting ready to play the Astros. The chat is rolling already. Hello to everybody in the chat. Shane, hello. He says he agrees with Collada. We stinks. It was a rough weekend. It was a rough weekend.
27-4, baby.
27-4 is a rough weekend. Yeah. There's no question about that. And, you know, before we even get to this, there's a lot of stuff going on before the game starts tonight. Cubs 19-21 overall, 4 games out of first, but the Reds are just a game behind, and I believe the Cardinals are only like 3.5 behind the Cubs, which is shocking. But then, Ryan, you gave me the flip side, and we're like, well, they're also...
Yeah, they're game out of wild card right now.
Game out of the wild card, so...
The Cardinals also were gifted by the Red Sox twice this weekend. The Red Sox led in the 9th inning, and Kenley Jansen blew it both games. And then they won last night in to sweep. So
they were gifted.
Yeah.
Aaron agrees with me in the chat,
Kenley
by the
Jansen,
way.
you can argue, is going to be a Hall of Famer one day, and he decided that, you know, I'm going to suck against St. Louis for 2 straight days over the weekend. So, you know... Hey,
it's also not the same Kenley Jansen.
Even Hall of Famers blow saves, guys, or potential Hall of Famers.
I should have looked this up.
Bullpens are still bullpens.
That's true.
Depending who's in there.
I should have put this in the show for graphics. Nick G says, Cody, I just want to say that Red Hot Ranch is a good therapy burger. I saw you posted it out, and I was like, the fries, I don't know if the fries looked good to me, but the burger looked real juicy.
Fries are good. It was my first time there, and I will definitely be going back because you can get what I got for like $7.
That's crazy. Those look like kind of like steak fries, bigger fries, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
And
they're good. I liked them.
Solid?
Yeah. I think you would change.
I'd probably like it.
You'd eat them.
Yeah. Well, I like fries. I like
now
all kinds
I want to
of
go
fries.
to that
Waffle
taco
fries.
place right next to it. Next time the Cubs piss me off and send me into the depths of hell. All right?
Well, what the Cubs did today was some few roster moves. Wisniewski to Iowa. We'll get into that in a second. Boxberger to the IL.
Real quick, Barbara, we are live. She just
Barb, this is live.
that.
Barb, this is never replayed again. This is only live. The pregame shows are only live.
Yeah.
I don't believe they store anywhere.
Unless you go back. I think YouTube might have them.
Yeah, they're on YouTube.
Are they on YouTube?
You can.
But it'll tell you if it's a replay or not.
Yeah.
But there's no it doesn't download to a podcast form for anybody.
Yeah.
The pregame show. It's just for you. We're
maybe
doing this just for you, Barb.
Maybe it's not a bit. For months I've been thinking that it's a bit.
I'm just asking.
Do it
We're just making sure. Anyway.
Yeah.
Back to
sorry. Wisniewski, Iowa. Boxberger, IL. Sampson to the 60-day. Estrada and Birdie called up. Let's get to Wisniewski first. Do you agree with the move to send him to AAA Iowa?
I don't disagree with it. I think I guess it depends. I mean, Ross told reporters in Houston that it was more about let me go and find the tweet before I say something wrong. This is from Megan Montemurro of the Chicago Tribune. Wisniewski being optioned is more about getting reinforcement in the bullpen per Ross. This move doesn't mean Hendricks will come off the IL and start Friday with off days Thursday and Monday. Cubs can go with a 4-man rotation. Hendricks will likely join the team to throw bullpen, Ross says. So I guess it's not theoretically. Like, when I first saw it, I was like, okay, this is a move because the next time I would say that Wisniewski's set to pitch would have been Hendricks's kind of turn through his rotation, or just about there. But the point of they do need bullpen reinforcement. They've used the bullpen a lot, and they do have the off day on Thursday, and they have another one Monday. So being able to play around is what happened a few weeks ago. I don't remember who was like they were able to when Taillon went on the IL. And they didn't need that 5th starter right away.
Right.
They were able. I think Assad maybe had that 5th starter, and then they were able to play around with that for the next turn or two through the rotation. So it is kind of in a similar way to that, allowing them to have a 9-man bullpen, 4-man rotation for another however many days until they need that 5th starter again. So for me, that all makes sense, and I don't disagree with that. I also don't disagree with getting Hayden Wisniewski some time down in AAA to work on things. Like, he had a bad game on Saturday, and he wouldn't tell you any different. Ross wouldn't tell you any different. Like, he didn't pitch well. And he did have a few solid starts before that So you hope that he was maybe turning a corner. But he had a clunker on Saturday, and that's just about it. And I think there are things that we've seen now since the season started that there's specific things that he's got to work on because he hasn't necessarily improved that much in those areas since the season started. Did he get some better baseball luck? Sure, where some of those hard hits probably weren't falling, or the catches were being made, or he was able to get guys to swing at bad stuff. But he still has those times where he's not throwing. He has uncompetitive pitches right out of the hand. He's giving up the hard contact, and we talked about this on the couch before the pregame show. But I think one of the things you look at with Wesneski is when you go to AAA, it's not like not that the games don't matter to those players, but the results really don't matter. Like whoever wins and loses that game probably doesn't matter as much as they do if he's pitching for the Cubs. So if he gets a start or two down there, he can legitimately just focus on the things that the Cubs want him to focus on and not necessarily care about if he gives up a couple of runs because he got better at these specific things. He felt better about what he was doing now, did some other things maybe not work out how he wanted to. Sure, the results maybe not there. But I think you can kind of look at this in a way of he's going to get time to just focus on specific things the Cubs are sending him down there to do. And if he gets better at that and shows clear improvement, he'll be back up in no time. Like he's 25 years old. I think he was still a prospect to start the season. Like
yeah, he was.
He's not a veteran. It's not like he sent the Cubs sending, or I guess it's kind of similar to the Cubs sending, Ian Happ down, starting the season in AAA, or sending Schwarber down to focus on things because they weren't doing them that well. So yes, long-winded way to say I don't disagree with this thing, and I think it could help Wesneski in the long run.
Yeah, I mean, in the short version of what Ryan just said, I basically agree. Me and Brendan talked about it a little bit on yesterday's series recap. Got to sit in for Corey. I think it
was that like being Corey for a night?
Well, Brendan led the show, so I got to be Brendan, and he had to be Corey.
And but you didn't have any heat maps because
I
saw part of it. There were no heat
no
maps
heat
from you.
Yeah. It was just, a lot of anger and venting. Honestly, that's really what it was. But we did talk a little bit about Wesneski and Hendricks making his way back, and we both were, even him, someone who's very high on Wesneski, we both think that it's probably time for him to go back to Iowa, just because he's not walking guys, like he's not as wild as like Caleb Killian. It's that when he does throw strikes, a lot of the time they're right there in the middle of the plate, and guys are just smashing those balls everywhere. And so the positive of him to me is the fact that he's not walking guys. He's just got to find a way to locate a little bit better.
Yeah, he's got an 80th percentile walk rate in baseball, which is pretty solid, pretty good for a guy's 25 years old. A lot of his other things are in the blue. Like he's giving up barrels at a high rate. His whiff rate's really low compared to the MLB average. Like a lot of those things you want to see from him aren't working out.
They all tell you that you can have a command problem without having a walk problem.
Yeah.
Right? You can still not have command of your pitches and not walk guys because the problem is instead of them being all over the place, like Cody said, sometimes they're too often out over the plate. Yeah. No matter how good the sweeping slider looks, if it's out over the middle of the plate too often, you're going to get in trouble. So I haven't lost – I don't know about you guys. I haven't lost any long-term faith in the fact that Wesneski can be a big piece for the Cubs moving forward. Like I just it's way too early to say, okay, he got a shot. No. He was great at the end of last year. He was great in the beginning of Cactus League. He showed you like one or two glimpses while he was up here. But I think it was an appropriate window for a guy to get a taste, and it wasn't going well, and they need something else going on, and Hendricks is coming back. So now let him go down and work on things that he wouldn't work on in a major league game. Yeah. Right? So this is exactly what AAA is for. Yeah. It's what other leagues don't have. Like you just don't see it. Like the NBA, sure they have league, but it's not the same. It's just not the same.
Well, and then it's also like I've seen the discourse on Wesneski and I already lost track of it, but like some of the things that like his slider is really good and we know that. But when he's not, he doesn't have the command of the other pitches, his fastball, cutter, change, like whatever, all that stuff. When he's not, doesn't have consistent command, everyone knows a slider is his best pitch, right? So maybe hitters are able to sit on that a little bit more because a fastball is immediately a ball right out of his hand, right? Or whatever pitch it is, they can kind of sit on the slider knowing that he's going to eventually have to use that slider and get it over the plate. And they know, so if they know it's coming, or, in a sense, know it's coming, they're able to sit on it. And I've seen that discourse, and I don't disagree. Like, if he's not throwing strikes with his other pitches, he's going to have to throw a slider for a strike, and hitters that pick up on that will be able to anticipate when a slider could be coming, or just immediately look for it right out of the hand. And that also hurts. It's not that, again, the slider's not getting the whiffs that you want it to anyway. Just overall, he's not getting the whiffs that he wants to. But it also hurts even more when the command of his other pitches aren't there, even if the slider looks good, because that makes it even more likely that he's going to have to throw a slider just to get pitches into the zone and get strikes.
Yeah. I guess to go with Wesneski, the guys they brought back, I'm pretty excited to see.
Estrada and Birdie.
Obviously, Estrada is someone that I think a lot of us here, sitting here, and also in the chat, we want to see him in a little bit of a higher leverage scenario. I'm not saying closer yet, but I am saying, if you're in a close game, I'd like to see what he's got. That's just my opinion. But I will say the last time Estrada was here, it felt like they only used him in mop-up duty. And then before he was sent back to Iowa, he had started to move into David Ross's, circle of trust, where they used him a few times. They were in lower leverage situations when the Cubs were down, but it wasn't mop-up duty. It was, a 1 or 2 run game in the 6th inning. Okay, great. And so now I'm looking to see how they use Estrada this time around, because I think we all are very high on him. And Nick Birdie, all I keep hearing about him is that this guy throws gas. You throw gas, you sign me up, brother. I'm in.
And and hit and miss, which both guys have hit and miss, which the Cubs need more of.
They need more of that
right now.
I am intrigued about those guys. Boxberger to the injured list. He hasn't been very good of late, so I'm assuming, I know David Ross said this is a precautionary thing for him. So hopefully he gets right, because at the very least, this guy is a trade piece at the deadline if they're in it or out of it, or even if they're in it, they could move him if they wanted to move on to one of the guys they have in Iowa, like Cam Sanders, for example, or one of these two guys. So,
and in a good scenario, he's a guy that is a veteran in some good has been in some good bullpens in the past, that if you are in it, and he could be that veteran guy you trust the back end of a bullpen.
So again, hopefully whatever this reasoning, the general consensus of it, hopefully when he comes back, he can slide back in there and get back to doing what he was doing, because his last few outings have been brutal. So I'm fine with everything that happened today. I feel bad for Adrian Sampson, because he was so good. He was so good last year, and just hasn't even, this spring was not good, and now this torn. It's the knee, right?
That's why you need depth, right?
You're right.
Because
and I know they just moved him to the 60 days, so it's just based retroactive to opening day, so he technically could come be available in June, but
it's been a rough 23 for him.
Yeah, it's been a rough start to 23 for him, and it's not something that I saw happening, because he ended the year healthy and everything. So, it is what it is. But I'm excited to see some of these bullpen guys, and hopefully, the Cubs, you get a nice outing out of Taillon tonight.
Birdie's a guy who didn't pitch in any competitive games in 21 or 22. He's had Tommy John twice. He had the nerve thing, the thoracic, what's it called? Thoracic capsular syndrome or something like that. So he's a guy that had really high expectations, and you feel good because for him, and I hope it really works out, and I hope he's able to succeed, because he's put a ton of work into getting to this point. There's nothing worse than having all this talent being built up inside of you and watching other people move forward while you have setback after setback after setback. He's been kicked down multiple times. Now can he finally get up? So it's like, it's going to be fun to watch him. I think I'll be rooting for him. I'm trying to think of Danny. He was a guy that was called up at the end of a couple years ago, like 3 years ago. Danny, he threw like 100 something. He was also a top Fulton. Danny Fulton was a guy who was like same thing. Was like a top prospect, top draft choice, and just could not stay healthy. And he was only able to basically get there, get a take. Danny Holtzen. Like he got to the majors, which was a big deal for him just to get to the major leagues. Birdie might be a different situation. Let's see if he can succeed because he was doing really well at Iowa. Let's see if it can translate to the major league level and if he can be one of those great success stories where the Cubs find someone who slipped through the cracks, a Rule 5 draft guy that they grab, and all of a sudden he's healthy and he becomes a big part of what you're doing.
Yeah. Back to the Samson one real quick. I don't think they count his time in the minor league IL towards the 60 days. So like when they remember whenever it was his May 4th, according to the game notes, when they recalled him and immediately moved him to the 15-day IL. I think that's what starts Samson's timer for the 60-day IL. So
I think Gary said that in the chat. So thank you, Gary, for correcting me.
So there you go. So I think, from what it looks like, he wouldn't be able to come off till like the 4th of July, something like that. So
I was a month off.
In the short term, that actually hurts the depth of the team, right? Like as far as starting pitching goes, like he didn't have a great spring. Was on the minor league IL for a while, so it was like their depth was hurt anyway.
Yeah,
but not being able to call him up for another month or month and a half obviously affects what the Cubs, I guess, had planned for their starting pitching depth. He was one of those guys that even though he didn't make the opening day roster, if they needed someone to come up and spot start, like he was going to be one of those guys. Now it looks like you're not going to have him for another however long.
Knee surgery is knee surgery. It's not ACL, but it's still knee surgery.
It was a right
meniscus,
meniscal debridement on his right knee.
So they're scraping away around the meniscus.
Right. Yep, there you go.
So, listen, obviously it's a big deal. What did somebody just said something about? Fun fact, Holtzen is still employed by the Cubs as their major league pitching strategist.
He's in there somewhere, yeah.
I did something with him when he came up at Iowa, and he was such a nice guy. I rooted for him to get there. So I was excited to see him get to the major league level, get that shot, and sometimes those seasons where they're toiling away and nothing's happening, it's nice to see those stories come through too. But I hope that Birdie can be even more than that for the Cubs. I hope. Nico Horner, by the way, batting practice on track for a minor league stint, could come off the IL as early as Friday by rule. So we'll see what happens with Nico.
They need him back Friday, honestly.
I mean, the offense.
They need him.
The offense needs some Nico Horner.
Honestly, don't send him to Iowa. Just throw him back in there. You need the defense at the very least. If he's healthy, play him. That's just how I feel. So, anyway.
Cody, did you make...
Barb goes, yes, I've had both my knees replaced. Back to work in 2 weeks. Ooh. No 60-day IL for Barb.
Yeah.
No.
Big of her. Credit to you, Barb.
And she was throwing 95.
Oh.
I don't know. Cody, what about a little DraftKings action tonight? What are you sprinkling?
I'm taking Christopher Morel over a half total bases, so he just has to get a hit tonight. I got a minus 105.
Do walks count for that?
No. And I think that's a dumb rule. That's not a gambling thing. That's a baseball thing. I think walks should count towards your total bases.
What if he got a walk and stole second?
No.
Got to get a hit.
Got to get a hit.
Saying the guy's
total bases go towards your hit. So if a guy gets a double and a single, he's had 3 total bases for them.
Well, now I'm not going to put $1,000 down on it, but I was thinking about it.
Well, it's not like he's been walking for the Cubs since he came back. He's just been mashing 460-foot bombs.
Oh, that's coming up in a second. We're going to talk about Morel. We've got to decide some who you got stuff after the break. So you got the Morel. Mm-hmm. You're betting on him getting a base hit.
Basically, yeah. He's also part of the hit parlay, too.
What's the hit parlay?
Hit parlay tonight is Morel, Seiya Suzuki, and Yordan Alvarez. Plus 384. I think that's
Two
those are
Cubs
great
and an
odds.
Astros player.
Yeah. You're lucky I didn't just pick 3 Astros players, considering how I feel about this team right now.
Yeah, I think somebody in the chat just up there, I think it was Doug, said something about Framber Valdez.
He's
one of Houston's best starters, so let's hope we can jump on him early.
Yeah. He has an ERA under 3.
As a matter of fact, before we get to our who you got picks, I decided to abstain tonight. After this weekend, I need a reset. Like, I haven't won who you got in a while. I'm on a cold streak. The Cubs are on a cold streak. And Valdez is pitching tonight. And I'm just kind of like, if I'm going to win, I don't want to win with a 1 for 5. And that's how I'm feeling going into this. I know that's a little bit, Captain Negative, but that's not, I don't want to win with, hey, my guy had a walk and an infield hit.
This is what happens when you
take a win
can't.
for a
This
1
is
for
what
5
happens
win.
when you can't take a pitcher anymore, though, Luke.
Right, that's right. So I looked at this.
Honestly, like
I don't know that I'd take Taillon tonight, but
we're going. You have the in Notion. You have the records or whatever, and I know that we all know that they're all gonna be very bad, but like now they're only gonna get worse just because like you can only take a hitter.
Oh yeah, if you look at the actual record, you're like, well, these guys don't know what they're talking about, which could be true. But
They
in
just
reality,
put us in front of a camera and we
it's just
talk.
it's about total wins. The only reason the losses are on there is in case we need a tiebreaker for win percentage at the end.
I got you.
Right? Like,
Yeah.
Sure.
in the end, it's really about mostly
made a
about
comeback.
wins.
I've made a comeback. I was like the very bottom, and now I'm only
Right,
one behind second place.
So the pregame standings, Ryan and I went through some of this, and there's one outstanding one that we have to figure out. I am 11-26. Ryan is tentatively 9-28. Corey 9-27. Cody 8-31. Brendan 1-2. Kevin 0-1. Sarah 1-0. Joey, he's 500. He's 2-2 because of the 2-point Jan Gomes win. But of course, if he doesn't play in 50%, he will be eliminated before the end of the season. So here's what we've got. We've got a little bit of a problem for yesterday's game, which, how do you pick a winner out of that? A little difficult. We have 2 contenders. I want the chat to help decide this. We can all have a vote in this. I'm not going to say who had who. We have Seiya Suzuki and Christopher Morel with almost identical box scores. Okay?
From yesterday, yes.
Yesterday. Sunday's miserable game. These 2 guys were 1 for 4. Each hit a solo home run. All right? So 1 for 4 with a solo home run. So same amount of RBI, same amount of runs scored, same amount of hits, same amount of home runs. Both were meaningless home runs in the box score. Like, the game was long gone when they hit home runs. Yeah. But who won, who you got? Gary says Morel for the energy.
All Morel.
Craig
so
says
far.
Morel.
And this is
Nick
big.
G says Morel, almost a 500-foot bomb. Sean says Morel.
This is big of me to say, so credit to me. But I will also go with Morel.
Yeah, I was gonna
I say it's big of me because it's Ryan's guy.
Well, Alex, you're not supposed to tell them that.
You're not supposed to tell them that.
not?
Now,
Of course he ruins it again.
Ryan,
No, I was gonna say for the person.
No,
that,
you guys did
We
not
won't
tell
even
me to not say it.
No, we won't even tell you who the other person is.
just
So now we know.
You also said tentatively.
Well, that kind of
Ryan,
gave it away. Yeah,
9-28,
but
so
if
you
weren't
gave it away
listening,
too.
That's true, you
Which
did give it
nobody
away.
out there is listening. Barb doesn't even know if this is live.
Well, I was gonna
too.
say the best argument for the person that had Morel is that
which is Ryan.
was that Morel's home run was a home run in all 30 ballparks. Seiya's was only a home run in 11. So.
Right. And if there's any knock on Morel that we talked about, I think I'd lean Morel too.
Yeah.
Both 1 for 4. Seiya left nobody on base. Morel left 2 on base. That's pretty much it. Oh, and a strikeout, right?
A strikeout, which we knew was going to come.
Yeah,
with
Morel struck out. Seiya did not strike out. But
looks like the chat.
it is live, Barb. We are live. Sean, yeah, we're live.
Sean asked this.
And
It is
you should be
Morel.
agreeing with me.
It sounds
Gary
like
says take Morel or take Mervis off the bench tonight. No, I'm abstaining. I'm abstaining tonight. I just don't.
Tonight's not
my
a good
gut
night to
tells
take
me this is a
Mervis.
reset
he
night.
doesn't like it, huh?
I don't know the vibes about this one. I don't know. I hope it turns out to be 16 runs for the Cubs and everybody can compete. We got all here are the picks for tonight.
All All right. So
And by the way, that leaves me to just help judge who wins this because I have no dog in the race tonight. The picks.
what's my updated record now after the chat picked Moreau?
All right. So now you are 10-28.
One game back.
I'm 11-26. That makes Brendan 1-3.
Okay.
I'm 8-31.
I did have that.
You had a double
That
pointer.
double one that should have won, but no. I keep getting screwed in this.
Well,
game.
that's the difference right now.
All right. So those are the who you got picks
Correct.
for tonight, right?
And
Oh.
tonight's pick, this says, these were old. I'm sorry.
We got 'em right
Tonight's
there.
picks, here they are. I've abstained. Is that a sad
sad
emoji?
face.
Sad face. Sad face.
I gave you a sad face.
Wondering who you're in the chat. Who you going with tonight? Ryan is going with Hap. Why are you taking Happer?
He's just had like an overall underrated season, I think. But he's due to have like a big blowout, and we'll see. He can hit lefties and righties, right? Like Framber Valdez, lefty. That's what everyone's talking about. But he's had a great year. I think Hap can do some damage.
I'm going with Seiya because I thought if there was any positive from this past weekend, it was him. He had some nice hits on Friday, and then obviously hitting the homer yesterday. I don't care if the game was over or not. You need him to get more lift on the ball, and he did that. So
All right,
I'm
that's
going
good.
with him.
Corey's going Morel. Vibes.
Vibes.
Brendan, look at that. We get to see the emoji with the hair now. He's going Bellinger because he stepped foot in studio. He is allowed to wager on these. By the way, I noticed in the chat that, was it Armando?
There's someone in here that says that they're
Armando's a Sox fan. Yeah. Rivas. Armando Rivas. Sox fan here. Huge fan of the channel. Armando,
We love you.
welcome to Cubs Pregame Live. We love that you watch the Sox show, but maybe if they're toiling around in disappointment this season, you want to jump over for a few more of the North Side games.
You said maybe if they
If they continue.
Or stick around because every once in a while I'll throw a crazy Cubs Sox trade out there for you. And Herb's usually jumping on him.
Yeah.
He's usually ready to go. Right now he wants Bellinger for the Sox. So he's trying to get Bellinger.
The Sox chat during the show today was like, oh, yeah, show Benintendi versus Belly splits right now. They're really upset about it because Benintendi's had a really tough start to the year. Can't hit anything.
He doesn't have a home run yet, and he's the highest paid player in franchise history.
He's got like 4 barrels.
Oh, there you go.
It's weird.
Anyways,
Barbara
Armando
also
Hello.
goes, is Gomes playing? Why aren't they picking him? I'll take Gomes tonight as a producer pick.
The producer.
Yeah,
pick.
you're
I'll
taking
take
Gomes.
Gomes.
Should we just combine the
Kevin's saying
producer
Gomes.
picks together?
Dude, taking Gomes isn't a bad idea
We
considering how good he's been.
could combine the producers into one person.
That was going to be my ask is what rule should
Well,
I
we have
abide
an
by?
awful lot of names on the scoreboard
Yeah,
now.
It's too many.
Yeah.
It's starting to look like the Wrigley Field scoreboard where every team is playing on one night.
So if
how do
you put 'em
how do
all
combine
together-
Jovenra.
If you put them all together, they'd be 3-3. And we don't even have Steven on here.
Dang.
Nah, he hasn't made a pick. He's a Sox fan. He's not allowed to make a pick.
Fair.
No offense, Armando.
All right.
Robert
all right.
says
So
he
yeah, they
agrees
would
with
be,
everyone but
it
Luke.
would be 3-3.
Thank
Shout
you,
out to you, Robert.
Appreciate you, man.
Right,
Finally,
Robert.
someone agrees with me.
He doesn't agree with you, Luke. He
I
agrees with
believe
all
it's
of us.
I believe it's Robert, but I don't want to. Luis Robert, they used to say.
yeah.
No, it's not anymore.
We haven't talked about the lineup.
Real quick.
Taillon. What about Taillon? How do you feel about Taillon tonight?
I'm cautiously optimistic.
He's at a.
Is he going to be on the pitch count again tonight? I don't I haven't seen anything that says that he is or isn't.
Well,
So I don't
they
know.
probably wouldn't tell you that just
Right.
for competitive.
And so,
purposes.
to me, it's like, all right, if he's not on the pitch count tonight, then if he can give you 5-6 innings, then that's a good start to hopefully build in some momentum. And he's pitched well
Yeah.
against good teams this year. He pitched well against the Dodgers before he had to go on the injured list. So I'm cautiously optimistic. And the big thing for him is not allowing the long ball. He's allowed too many home runs.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where Taillon talked about last time, not feeling mechanically, the results weren't there, but he was confident in the pitch shapes and stuff like that. So sometimes that's just baseball, where you feel good and you feel like you're doing the right things, but they just don't work out.
Yeah.
Sometimes that happens. So I think with Taillon, especially one of the things that he talked about he really did not like is the walks.
Mm-hmm.
So that just the command, right? Not walking guys, not having non-competitive. I think that's one thing I want to see out of Taillon is just because that's also what leads to the higher pitch count. So like when he is on a pitch count, then they have to take him out sooner, right? He talked about it earlier in the during the preseason with me. He said innings are sexy. He needs to get some innings.
Yeah.
He needs to go out there,
Be
save,
sexy tonight.
yeah, save some of the bullpen. But just like really like that command and stuff. Just like you want to see the better results, of course, but
Some of the best,
that's gonna
some
come
of the
with
best
command
hitters
and
for the
everything.
Astros all have a home run against them, like Tucker, Alvarez. Okay, Maldonado isn't a great hitter, but he even has a home run off Taillon. And these were all probably when Taillon was with the Yankees. So, yeah.
And no Mervis tonight because of Valdez.
Yeah.
I
And
understand
I'm fine
that.
with that.
I
I'm fine
understand
with
that tonight.
I do not want Mervis to face the lefty with the way that he's swinging it right now. Don't need to make that lower that confidence any more than it already is.
Barb says I need to get Cody's bail money ready because this could be another blowout loss. I hope not.
I hope
I'd like
not,
to see a
man.
beer bat tonight.
Honestly,
But he is ready to be hurt again.
I'm probably gonna hedge against my emotions and probably hammer the Astros run line before this game starts. But we'll see. This is one of the I tweeted this today. I weirdly feel how I feel after the 11-game losing streak last year, in which the Cubs proceeded to win 2 or 3 against the Braves that weekend.
Oh, yeah. That's right. That was a weird week.
I feel as down as I was then today. So the Astros they haven't exactly played up to their level of expectations so far this year. Who knows?
Yeah, where are they at? Where are they at in the division over there?
Not even in first.
No.
They're like a 500 team.
Second.
Yeah.
They're 21-19, so
Yeah.
only a few games up on the Cubs right now. Like
They're not much different than the Cubs as far as record, at least. Are they the better
Yeah.
team? Yes.
Yes.
Do they have better? They have so much more experience and all.
Yes.
Yes. I'm not saying that they're not the better team. I'm not saying that they won't make the playoffs. I'm just saying that you're getting them at the right time right now.
Framber Valdez also has the 16th percentile hard hit rate and 38th percentile barrel rate. So it seems like if you are able to get the bat on the ball, some good things may happen.
His ERA's been good this year, but
His
his
ERA's good.
record's like 3-4, isn't it?
Yeah.
He's not walking a lot of guys, and he's striking out.
I know wins loss don't mean anything.
70th percentile strikeout rate. So he's striking guys out. He's able to miss bats, and he doesn't walk a lot of guys. So if you can just get the ball on the bat or the barrel on the ball, you might have a chance to do some damage against him. That's obviously the Cubs' mission, right? But that's the mission for any game. Just get the bat on the ball.
As Captain Positive, there's always a positive spin to it. If the Cubs get blown out for a third straight game, we go get ice cream. Thanks for checking out the CHGO Cubs pregame show presented by DraftKings, America's top-rated sportsbook. Download the app. Use the promo code CHGO when you sign up. We'll see you back here for the postgame show right after the game. Please join us. Thanks to everybody in the chat. We had fun. Fly the W. We'll see you after the game.